Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new Ninjago video here on the channel. My name is TannerFishies. In today's video, we are going to be ranking all of the Ninjago villain armies as they appear in the Ninjago TV show and the Ninjago movie for the Shark Army over here. We have our tier list all ready to go here. I will be leaving a link to this tier list down below in the description as well, in case you guys want to do this for yourself. And for our tiers, we have Love, my favorite ones, Great, Good, Meh. This one is supposed to be Forgettable, but I didn't have enough space to write Forgettable, so we just have some question marks, and Hate. Like I said, we do have all of the villain armies here according to the Ninjago TV show and the Ninjago movie. We do not have things like the Ninjago Corps Bone Warriors, nor do we have stuff like the Tannerbrax puppets. I don't think this needs to be said, but this will just be according to my own opinion. You guys probably will not agree, but like I said, I will be leaving a link to this down below in the description. Feel free to make your opinion heard as well. So for the first villain army that we have here, that of course being the Skulkin. The Skulkin, or the Skeletons, I'd say are a pretty good villain army. Very classic, very iconic, I would say. Definitely not my favorite, but they are far from the worst. Next up we have the Serpentine. Now the Serpentine I am basically lumping into one category here, all of the tribes in one with the exception of the Pyro Vipers obviously, but in terms of the Serpentine, it's hard not to say that they're a pretty great army of villains. I mean, they've been around for years, they are pretty much Ninjago's most iconic villain army in my opinion, and it's hard not to love them. Sure, some tribes are better than others, I really enjoy the Anacondrae, but the other tribes aren't necessarily bad, I just think some are better than others, but still, as an entire race of beings, the Serpentine are pretty great. It's hard not to rank them in the great category. Moving on, we have the Stone Army down here. I really love the Stone Army. In fact, I'm going to put it all the way up in the love section right there. I think the Stone Army is a fantastic army, all things considered. I really like the Overlord armies. The Overlord armies are always fantastic to me, but the Stone Army, it's the best of the original trio in my opinion, and I just really like them. What can I say? Love their colors, love the uniqueness between the different ranks. I think the Stone Army is probably one of Ninjago's better armies throughout the entirety of Ninjago's catalog, I'd say. Moving on though, the Nindroids I think are a lot better than the Stone Army, and in fact, I will rank them above the Stone Army on my list. I love the Stone Army, but the Nindroids, they took everything about the Stone Army that I loved and basically increased it tenfold. I love the Nindroids. I've always been super big into robotics, and evil robots, those are just the best, aren't they? Nindroids, like the Stone Army, they are an Overlord army, but I feel like in a lot of ways they are better than the Stone Army. Pretty close, but the Nindroids take the win there, in my opinion, of course. Moving on down to the Anacondrae cult. Now, Season 4 is my favorite season of all time. However, the Anacondrae cult is probably the weakest villain army that we've seen so far. I'm going to put it in the meh section. Aside from Chen and Klaus, the Anacondrae cult doesn't really appeal to me all that much. I think it's cool that we have like a cult of beings that worship the Anacondrae. I guess that's pretty sweet. And of course, they do turn into snakes, so that's awesome. But we already had snakes up here, right? These guys are kind of just lesser snakes in my opinion, and I suppose that was the point. And while these guys might be memorable, I don't think they are all that great compared to some of the other armies on this list so far. Moving on down to the Ghost Army. The Ghost Army, yeah, they are pretty cool. In fact, I will put them in the great category as well. Probably before the Serpentine. The Serpentine mean a lot to Ninjago overall, but the Ghosts are just so much cooler in my opinion. Not as cool as the Stone Army or the Nindroid Army, but the Ghost Army, it's a very cool army. It's pretty hard to deny that. Great tier, a little bit better than the Serpentine, not as great as these two. Next up we have the Sky Pirates. The Sky Pirates, I like the variety in the Sky Pirate ranks. Not every single character is the exact same, but I think I'm going to go with the good tier for the Sky Pirates. Some members are of course better than others. I love Flintlock, Clancy, but then you have Dogshank and Monkey Wrench and all the other unnamed foot soldiers. I know they have names, but I can't remember them to save my life, so I'll say good tier for the Sky Pirates. Very solid army overall, but not as good as some of these guys up here. Moving on, we have Yang's students. I almost did not put them on this list, and for that I'm going to give them the Forgettable tier. Yeah, I don't really care too much about these guys. I don't hate them with a passion or anything like that. I just don't have any strong feelings towards them in general. So I'm going to say Forgettable for Yang's Ghost Student Army thing. Not as cool as these ghosts up here, but also, you know, I don't hate them, like I said. They're fine, I suppose, but not very memorable. So forgettable, I will say. Moving on, who do we have next? Oh, okay, I hate these guys. I do not like the Vermilion at all. Not even much variety. Some of them are red, some of them are orange. Cool. You also have really annoying characters like Blunk and Ragmonk and, you know, all of those fine characters that I hate. Yeah, I don't like the Vermilion. The Vermilion aren't really forgettable to me because I remember how much I hate them constantly. Pretty much whenever I think about Hands of Time, which is a lot, especially as of late. So the Vermilion, that'll be the first army that I downright hate. I think the concept of the Great Devourer's spawn being a villain army, that's a cool idea. But the Vermilion, in execution, that concept is very much lacking, so I don't like them. Hate tier. Moving on, we have the Shark Army. These guys are kind of, meh, I'll say. I don't hate the Shark Army, not as much as the Vermilion, that's for sure. And I do like the variety in some of their warriors, but, you know, they're not really super memorable. I'd say the only reason why they are not in the forgettable tier is because they were a part of the Ninjago movie, and the movie is the movie. I rewatch it a lot, so the Shark Army never really leaves my brain, but I don't find them to be as cool as some of these other guys. In fact, I'll put them on par with the Anaconda cult. Just kind of meh. They're cool, but not that cool. Moving on, who do we have next? Ooh, the Sons of Garmadon. Okay, I kind of like these guys a little bit more than some of these. I will say, I'll say good tier for the Sons of Garmadon, but I will put them at the beginning of the good tier. I think they're better than the Skullkin, better than the Sky Pirates. A lot of variety here too, and I really enjoy characters like Mr. E, Ultraviolet, Kilo, all of them. So I'll say good tier for the Sons of Garmadon. Definitely not the weakest army ever, but still not as good as some of these guys up here. Moving on, we have the Dragon Hunters. Yeah, these guys are interesting. I think I'm gonna say meh, but I'll put them above the Shark Army. Yeah, these guys are kind of on par with the Anaconda cultists, in my opinion. Very memorable, considering that they took up the entire season of Hunted to themselves, basically. Kind of overshadowed the Sons of Garmadon during Ninjago Hunted. But still, they're not like my favorite army at the end of the day. I wouldn't say that they're a bad army or a forgettable one, just kind of middle of the road to me. The Oni! The Oni army, unfortunately, did not do much of anything during March of the Oni, aside from the Omega, and they're not really super memorable as an army themselves. However, the Oni as a concept is really, really cool. But in terms of the army, I guess I'll put them in the meh section, probably above the Dragon Hunters, if I'm being honest. I love the colors of the Oni. I love their designs. I just wish they did a lot more, right? Like, Oni in Ninjago are super important, and we've seen characters that are main characters embrace their Oni sides, but the Oni army itself, I can't really put any higher than meh. I think they're an awesome army in terms of visual appeal, but they didn't really do anything, so meh tier, in my opinion. Kind of on par with all of these guys. The Pyro Vipers. Aside from Esphira, they're pretty forgettable, I'd say, but Esphira, you know, gives them the edge over these weird Yang ghost student things. The Pyro Vipers, I don't really care for any of them aside from Esphira, and even Esphira is a pretty weak villain in my opinion. Crystal Eyes definitely improved her character quite a bit, but the rest of the Pyro Vipers, I don't really care too much about, so forgettable tier, in my opinion. Definitely not a standout villain army, at least according to my own thoughts. The Blizzard Samurai, also from Season 11. How do I feel about these guys? I think they're better than the Pyro Vipers, but I don't think they deserve to be in this tier, so I'll say forgettable as well, but I'll put them above the Pyro Vipers, with the exception of Zayn as the Ice Emperor and General Vex, obviously. I just don't think the Blizzard Samurai have that much going for them. Next up, the Red Visors from Prime Empire. Also kind of a forgettable army. I'm not a huge fan of the Red Visors. I'll probably put them in between the Blizzard Samurai and the Pyro Vipers. These guys just kind of remind me of lesser Ninjroids. The Ninjroids are awesome. These guys are kind of like the same thing, robotic warriors, but not as cool as the Ninjroids. Forgettable tier for the Red Visors. I'm just not really a huge fan of them in general. Prime Empire was kind of a forgettable season to me, all things considered. The Awakened Warriors. Talk about a very You know what? I'm going to say I hate them. Not as much as I hate the Vermilion. The Vermilion are still probably my least favorite army overall. But the Awakened Warriors, they're literally just the Skullkin, but worse in every single way. No personality, very bland design. I mean, the green eyes are cool, but these guys had red eyes. They already did skeletons, and they did them a lot better in the original pilot episodes. So the Awakened Warriors from Master of the Mountain, I will say that I hate them. In my opinion, they are also really forgettable, but I'd put them more on par with the Vermilion as opposed to some of these other armies. The Keepers of the Island. I do really like these guys. I don't think they are as memorable as they probably should be, but they're certainly a lot better than some of these guys in here, so I will put them in the meh section. Probably after the Shark Army. I really like Chief Mamadis. The rest of the Keepers as well are really cool. Not my favorite army, but I do think they have a memorable presence in Ninjago, having a major role in both the island and Seabound, so I will say meh tier. I mean, they're fine. They're perfectly fine, but not as good as some of these guys, but not as bad as some of these. Very middle-of-the-road villain army as well. Next up, the Merlopians. I really like these guys. There's a lot of variety here. I will say they are a good villain army, but I'll probably keep them in that position right there. I really like the green ones. You got some blue ones in there too. The Merlopians, like I said, nice variety. They're not all the exact same. They're not just clones of each other. I think that definitely adds some uniqueness to this villain army, and they are water themed. I'm a huge fan of underwater stuff in general, and these guys definitely made Seabound for me. And finally, we have the Crystal Army, the most recent army as of the time of recording this video. How do I feel about these guys? I do like their colors. I like how they're also partially Vengestone. I will say this is a good army. I'll probably put them below the Merlopians though, just because there's not that much variety in the Crystal Army. They do have those flying creatures though. Those are pretty sweet, those weird crystal dragon things. And of the Overlord's armies, I'd say these ones are probably the weakest ones. But still, I really like the Crystal Warriors, the Crystal Vengestone Warriors, whatever you want to call them. They were definitely a very interesting presence in Ninjago Crystallized, and I do have quite a few of the minifigures too, so I like having my own little crystal army. Not my favorite army ever, but still pretty solid, pretty good in my opinion. And I think that'll just about do it for my tier list. I'm pretty content with this overall. A lot of middle-of-the-road armies, in my opinion. Definitely not as many in my love category as I thought there would be. But still, I love the Ninjroids, love the Stone Army. None of these other ones really even come close to these top ones, so I think that'll just about do it. And in terms of my bottom tiers, yeah, really don't like these ones down here. These ones are kind of forgettable, but these ones I absolutely hate with a passion in the case of the Vermilion, that's for sure. So with that being said, guys, that'll pretty much wrap it up for my tier list right here. Once again, I will be leaving a link to this tier list down below in the description. If you guys want to check this out for yourself on your own time, feel free to do so. And let me know down below in the comments what your favorite villain army is. In my opinion, the Ninjroids are the best, but feel free to let me know your opinions down below in the comment section, and let me know what you thought of the video itself. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you guys enjoyed today's video, feel free to like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will talk to you guys again very soon. Peace.